Good afternoon and welcome to Marketing the Magic Live. Today we're going to be talking about what kind of hero your company plays in its marketing story. So give us just a second here while we make sure everything comes online like it's supposed to, and then we'll get started. In the meantime, you can answer the question of the week, which is ridiculously simple. What's your favorite Disney park? Your favorite Disney theme park anywhere in the world? Give us just a second. Answer that question if you're already watching to kind of limber things up and get in the mood to have a good chat. And we will get started here in just 1 second. That looks good. That looks good. Okay. And today is apparently our 10th broadcast to Facebook Live. How about that? All right. Looks like everything is online. That's wonderful. Let me check YouTube one more time. Yep, it's good. All right, let's get started. So again, welcome to MTM Live. This is our weekly live stream discussion centered around the lesson that we choose to explore each week here at Marketing the Magic. And this week's lesson, as I mentioned, and as the title card says, and as the blog post talked about and the video talked about previously, this week's lesson is on determining what kind of hero your company plays in its marketing story. Now, what in the world does all that mean? Well, let's dive in just a little bit. So to establish a bit of context, the way I look at marketing, and this is whether you're pursuing an inbound marketing strategy or you just run Facebook ads or you just take part on Twitter, whatever it is, the way I look at marketing strategy is as if I was writing a story, an actual story. So I break things down into the different elements that would be included in that story. So that's the characters and the plot line and what's the plan and who's the villain and all of those things. And this is something we're definitely going to be exploring more and more, over future episodes. But for this week and for today, we're going to talk about your company's character in the story. And of course, your company is the hero. You're the one that saves the day. Your company solves the problem that your customer has. And while ultimately that problem is really kind of the most important part of the story, so knowing what you actually have to sell to your customer to fix the problem, what the problem actually is that you're fixing, understanding that is probably the most critical aspect. But probably second to that is the role your company plays in solving that problem. So that's what we're going to focus on today. And as the title put it, the two, if we were to distill things down to kind of black and white categories, the two categories would be, are you a Prince Philip from Sleeping Beauty, or are you a Wall-E from Wall-E? Now, what do we actually mean by that? Okay, so in Sleeping Beauty, Prince Philip is the hero who saves the day, but he doesn't really enter the picture until the very last moments, where he comes in to slay Maleficent and in the story. That's a last-minute save. He comes in at the very end, and we know very little about him otherwise. Now, how does that translate to business and marketing? Well, if your company primarily serves customers in emergency situations or at the very moment that they understand that they need you, it probably means that your company fits into that Prince Philip sort of archetype. So examples of those kinds of companies would be personal injury lawyers. Obviously, a pure personal injury attorney is not going to get a call from a customer until somebody's had an accident, whether it's a car accident or on the job or whatever it might be. Emergency plumbers would be another example. Last-minute tax preparers. Speaking of, have you gotten your taxes done? Those kinds of companies would fit into that archetype of the last-minute save. Before we talk about what kind of marketing those kinds of companies are going to be best suited doing, let's look at the opposite. The opposite would be Wall-E. So if you remember the movie Wall-E, in the opening scenes, we see Wall-E, the robot, cleaning the mess up that humans have left. And that's what he was created for. That's what the army of Wall-E robots were created for, was to clean up the earth. So from the very moment we enter the movie, Our hero is on screen working to clean up the mess. He's doing his job. It's not a last minute save, although there is obviously an ultimate moment in the movie at which Wally saves the day. But Wally has been doing his job the entire time. He's there before the Earth really even knows it needs him. And that's the other kind of business that's out there. Again, if we were looking at sort of black and white categories here, these other businesses are out there doing their job, offering their services, trying to communicate why you might need their services all along. And customers are not coming in, and usually at the very last minute, looking for a save. So what examples can we talk about here? Well, marketing agencies are one. But let's look at maybe an estate planning attorney. So obviously, an estate planning attorney can't wait until the very last minute necessarily to attract his clients. But instead, an estate planning attorney can work to inform his potential customers that they need to really focus on their estates. They need to make sure that their wills are taken care of and that they've planned for the tax issues that are going to come up and so forth. Construction companies aren't going to be last-minute saves. Restaurants aren't going to be last-minute saves. Everybody has to eat every day. So a restaurant can be marketing on a variety of channels, and they're not saying, oh my gosh, it's 11:59 p.m. and you forgot to eat today. You should come to us. It's not the kind of marketing they're going to do. So that's kind of the two big dichotomies, I suppose, in the sort of hero archetypes that we're discussing. And hello, Donna. And yes, Donna, I would be remiss not to mention that while I have chosen two male heroes, there are, of course, female heroes that we can turn to for examples as well, such as Rapunzel, who works with Flynn Rider to win the day in Tangled, and of course Moana, wonderful movie. If you haven't seen Moana, go check it out. Wonderful Disney movie, and obviously a strong female heroine. So there you go, Donna. I apologize for neglecting to mention the female heroines that we can turn to as well. But now, I mentioned if we were looking at things in terms of black and white, that those would be the two sort of archetypes that we would talk about. But there are, as John asked yesterday, during our stream yesterday, there are companies that play both types of heroes, or a hybrid kind of hero, where you may address last-minute issues, but you may also offer those things that aren't necessarily last-minute saves, or they solve a problem that's not life and death, things that a customer may not even understand that they have a need for yet. So there are those companies. And one example I can think of in that way is the continuing education company that I work with, and that's about half my business. And in that company, we definitely have the last-minute deadline issues. Our customers have a deadline every single year on which they have to have completed their continuing education, or they risk losing licensure and so forth. So we definitely have to market to that need. We have to market to that last-minute save need. But our customers don't have to wait till the last minute. They can get their CE throughout the year. And more than that, our brand has the opportunity to be a resource to them before and completely separate from their actual continuing education deadlines. So one of the goals we've set in marketing that company is to become more of a general resource, an informative resource to our potential customers before they actually need the continuing education that we offer, and even if they never choose our continuing education. If we can become that resource, it begins to build that community and connection, and then when it comes time for their CE, they just think, oh, that's who I need to turn to. I've been watching their videos and reading their blog posts every single week for the last 5 years. So there are definitely examples of companies that don't fit into those black and white categories, and that's fine. The most important thing is to really study your customer and the problems they face and figure out what kind of hero is your company, because that's going to drive what kind of marketing you need to do. Now let's talk about that marketing. So, what kind of marketing do you need to do if you are a Prince Philip? If you are that last minute save kind of company? Well, in most cases, and again, I'm going to turn to the legal market because it's such a huge industry, and most people at least know that there are lawyers and that some of them do this kind of work and some of them do that kind of work. And I've also worked with attorneys for about 12 years, so it's kind of top of mind. So let's look again at some examples from the legal market. That personal injury attorney, who's only really going to have a job to do when someone has been in an accident. So there's not much point advertising on Facebook to every single person in your geographic area and saying, if you get in a car accident, call me, when the vast majority of those people are never going to get into a car accident at all, much less timed with happening to have seen your Facebook ad a few minutes ago, which may have actually caused the accident. So that kind of marketing for a personal injury attorney is not really the best use of time and effort and money. Instead, that personal injury attorney will probably turn to methods like pay-per-click search advertising. So this is a situation in which you know that if your ad is triggered, if it is shown and you're charged for it, it's because someone was searching for a personal injury attorney in your city and your ad got shown. They need you right now. That's the kind of marketing that's going to suit the Prince Philip type businesses. So search advertising is probably the best example of that. And yes, it's expensive, but it's because there's such demand for it, and there's such demand for it because your customer is searching right now. They need you right now, not tomorrow, not 10 years from now. They need you today. And so you have that opportunity to make that very quick, very tight connection and close that deal before they have a chance to move on and think about it and bargain shop with other personal injury attorneys and so forth. Now, the Wall-E types, so let's look at, again, that estate planning type attorney. While yes, there may be opportunities to reach people, near the end or when it's becoming an emergency. By and large, an estate planning attorney is going to want to focus on helping families to build their estate plans before it comes time, so that you have time to cover all those needs. So while an estate planning attorney could certainly use those methods like search advertising, there's much more opportunity to do more longer funnel or longer process marketing. So you could choose to advertise on Facebook or LinkedIn to people of a certain age who have a certain amount of income, who have kids and so forth. And you have the opportunity to be much more effective with those types of advertising that are used when people don't necessarily know they need you yet. You can point out that they might need you and start to build those relationships much more cheaply and at a much wider with a much wider audience. But that doesn't mean in either case that you can't use the other methods. Okay, so going back to that personal injury attorney, the Prince Philip type company, you can certainly use blogging to attract personal injury clients, especially when you look to also tying your marketing to the buyer's journey, which is something we're going to talk about in the future. But the short version is the buyer's journey is made up of 3 stages that a person's going to go through, and that's awareness of the problem, consideration of the solutions to that problem, and then decision making, deciding who's going to solve that problem for you. So a personal injury attorney could very easily, very well, and very effectively write a series of blog articles, for instance, that address each of those stages. So they could write, the personal injury attorney could write an awareness stage article that's something like, these are the 10 things you need to do after a car accident. And then a consideration stage blog post that's, here are your options for making sure you get the most money for your pain in a personal injury situation. And then a decision-making stage article that's something like, here's why you should choose Delancey & Delancey law firm to represent you in your personal injury case. And I'm Delancey, by the way, and I'm not an attorney, so that's not a shameless plug or anything. It was just an example. Now, so like I said, and just as the estate planning attorney can also use those last-minute methods of marketing to reach the people who have said, "Oh my gosh, I really need to have an estate plan right now," and they're searching on Google for how to do that. Regardless of what kind of business you operate, you can look to those other marketing channels. The biggest issue is you must understand what kind of hero you are and what kind of customers you're serving and what their problems are. And just make sure you factor those elements in when you're deciding which marketing channels to pursue. So, that's going to about wrap up our topic for today. And I'm trying to stay more focused, as my wife has pointed out to me, because I do tend to ramble. So if I've gotten too far off the track today, I apologize. I'm working on it. But I hope this has been a useful subject, and it's going to be more useful as we begin to layer in these other pieces. So as we really dive into understanding who our customer is, as we did with the buyer personas episode a couple of weeks ago, and as we really dive into understanding the problems that our customers face. And that's a whole other subject. And we'll dive into that more in the future. But as we really begin to piece together these different elements of a story-driven marketing strategy, I hope it puts it all kind of into perspective and into some context for you, because that's the goal. I want to help you understand how to approach your marketing strategy using these different elements of storytelling. So, let me make a quick check here and see if we have any questions or comments or concerns, or you don't know what you're talking about, or any of that kind of stuff. Looks like I don't see anything. So I suppose I made Donna happy since she didn't fuss at me. Alrighty. Well, guys and girls, I appreciate you watching, whether you've watched live or you're catching this after the fact via replay on Facebook or YouTube. If you want to catch us, we are going to be live for the month of April every single day. Well, at least for this week. We will have a video every single day for the rest of April. I don't know if it'll be live yet or not. But regardless, we will be live to discuss each week's lesson every Wednesday at 1 o'clock Central Time. So if you're watching on Facebook, make sure you follow our page. And if you should be able to turn the notifications on to get notified when we go live. And if you're on YouTube, it's even easier. Just subscribe to our page. And if you like, you can turn on email notifications. But then you'll start getting those notifications each time we go live. So I hope you've enjoyed the discussion today. If you have any further questions after the fact, let us know. You can comment on Facebook, YouTube, or email us, or whatever you want to do. Send smoke signals. In any case, guys, have a great rest of your afternoon. Have a great week. Go out and make the life you want to live, and we will see you real soon. Thanks.